Get out your pen and paper. Let's learn something. So what's the main idea of Joshua? So the book of Joshua was kind of written to the descendants of those people in the generation who had walked out of Egypt and now were searching for the promised land. It's kind of a historical account of how they came to where they are. So the book of Joshua really kind of celebrates God as king, defender, and conqueror. The book of Joshua also is very, very detailed in the geographical areas of the different tribes of Israel that he summoned in the first covenant, and now he's kind of establishing those boundaries. It's a very detailed account, and it gets a little boring if you're reading it. Now, the book of Joshua is a very good narrative talking about the early days of Moses and even leading up into the time of the Judges. So it's kind of a very good detailed narrative to fill in the gap. And as we know, Moses kind of started all this process up, but it was actually Joshua and with the help of Caleb, obviously, that helped get them to the promised land. So what Moses endured early on, Joshua was able to finish. And what the book of Joshua really reveals is that all those promises made by God, he's actually revealing to the people right before their eyes. And it says in Joshua 21:45, not one of the good promises which the Lord had made to the house of Israel failed. All came to pass. So that's kind of a general summary of the book of Joshua. Alright, so on our animal spotlight today, we have a very famous animal you see all over the United States and Canada, and it's the Canadian goose, or Canada goose, however you want to say it. These are very, very large birds. They're brownish body, pale breast, black neck. You've seen them all over the place. The flocks fly very high in well-defined V formation. So the ones we have, the Canadian geese we have here in Florida, are typically year-round, believe it or not. I know they may migrate just a little bit, but if they're from Florida, typically, they don't really leave. Now, if they're from Alaska or Canada, they migrate down here every winter because they have to, because obviously once the winter hits, pretty much all that stuff up north, pretty much north of the central line of America, it's pretty much just frozen. So they all come down here to migrate. You've heard the whole spill of these things. But they're very common, and it's funny the fact that you actually see more of these in cities than you do in rural areas like where I'm from. So just interesting fact about Canadian geese. So for our financial aspect today, we're going to be talking about a share. A share is a portion of a company you invest in. They do this to raise capital and to potentially reward their investors. So they say, hey, if you invest in us, we're going to invest back in you and make you more money. That's the way it ideally goes. But generally speaking, a stock price is driven by supply and demand, much like any market. So any market like that, obviously, if there's more people wanting the stock's going to go up. More people buying into the stock, it shoots the stock higher up. Ideally, that's the way it goes. And then if the company comes out with some bad news, the share price goes down because people are either selling or the company's not evaluated as much. It's a whole process. We could talk days on shares in the stock market. But to break it down even more, so let's just say a company is evaluated at $100. Their market cap is $100. They want to offer up 100 shares. So hypothetically, each share be worth $1. Now there's a lot of institutional investing, and they hoard some for their own company. It gets kind of messy and blurry, but just for the sake of this simple analogy, that's the way it goes. Just know that a share is just a portion of the company you invest in. Alright, so for our history spotlight today, we're going to be talking about a very popular character. Many of you have heard his name before. His name is Julius Caesar. So Caesar had military command in Gaul and was a very, very powerful victor of the civil wars. He, along with two other men, Cassius and Pompey, ruled what is known as the first, I cannot pronounce this name, triumvirate, however you say it, but basically it was three rulers over one common people. That can't end well, and you'll see why. Many of the Roman senators regretted having this new set of rules. The Senate decided Pompey should lead alone. But, being how typical rulers are, Caesar didn't want to give up his power. Pompey should have had the Senate. Caesar didn't want to give up anything, and Crassus, or however you say his name, he was trying to kill the other two. So it was really just a bad equation from the get-go. In the end, though, Caesar defeated Pompey and took over the Roman government to create his own dictatorship. Caesar tried to fill the Senate with his friends, That don't ever work out well. The rest of the Senate was less than thrilled. Can you imagine? So Caesar had tried to fill the Senate with all of his friends. The rest of the Senate was not very happy about that. And actually, on March 15th of 44, that known as the Ides of March, Caesar attended a meeting in the Senate, and all the other senators pulled his knives out on him. They ended up killing him, and the Civil War followed for another 13 years. So this was not the only time that there was a group of 3 different leaders. It actually happened again once those 3 fought and killed each other off. They actually had it start again, known as the Second Triumvirate, or however you say that. And this was formed to try and restore the peace from the first 3 guys. So now you had Marcus Antonius, however you say that, which was Caesar's right-hand man. And you had Octavian, who was Caesar's nephew. And then you also had another rich Roman guy named Lepidus, or Lepidus, however you say that. And it wasn't long before those 3 guys started fighting and killing each other. So basically, it's really hard to have multiple leaders of one body of people, because as you can see here, twice didn't work out too well. And that's that on Julius Caesar. And our inspiring quote of today is, "One of the most dangerous places to be is when we don't seek the truth. The easiest way to eliminate confusion is to know the truth." I hope you learned something today. Have a good one.